Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you today? I hope you're fine. Today, our group, we are from group 4. We will present some presentation in GMD. But before we begin, let me introduce group 4 member. ROZAN IBNU MUAMMAR TIFA and RAMADHANI SYAZALI as speakers, and then MAULIDA FORTUNA UZMA and AMALIA INSANI sebagai pembuat PowerPoint dan pencari materi, pencari sumber materi. So what we are going to talk about, we're going to talk about English for teaching. We will talk about teaching. So let's begin to our discussion. The first presentation will be delivered by RAMADHANI SYAZALI SIRA.
My name is Ramadhani and I will explain you about teaching. In education, teaching is the constant sharing of knowledge and experience, which is usually organized with a discipline and more generally the provision of stimulus to the psychological and intellectual growth of a person by another person or artifact. In this time, our group will explain about objective of teaching, step of teaching, and teaching method. To understand the language curriculum development. First, objective teaching. So the objective teaching is to improve teachers' ability in teaching language. I suggest for the teacher to use more activities that require production of simple phrases and words that they have learned, such as games and simple dialogue. By doing this, the purpose of the courses such as to develop a set of core vocabulary and expression for use in simple conversation, to build confidence, to provide the motivation to learn English, and many more will get by us more easy. So approach, techniques, method, and exercises are really important for teaching language, and this topic will present by ROZAN IBNU.
My name is ROZAN IBNU. Let's go into the first slide of my discussion. Steps of teaching. So to improve teacher ability in teaching language, there are several activities should be done. There are 4 categories of language teaching, such as approach, technique, teaching, and exercise. Those categories should be implemented in the teaching process. So every teacher has different ways of teaching. When he or she enters the classroom, may have some idea of what students need to learn. It is therefore he or she should think various interactive and attractive activities so that students will achieve their need and goal in learning. First, an approach. I will explain you one by one. Approach is a way of looking at teaching and learning. Underlying any language teaching approach is a theoretical view of what language is and of how it can be learned. An approach gives rise to methods, the way of teaching something, which use classroom activities or technique to help learner learn. And then technique. A technique is a single activity that comes from a procedure. Any one of the steps of the procedure listed above qualifies as a technique. Naturally, various methods employ various techniques. And then teaching. Teaching is to instruct or train students. So teachers implement their techniques and approach for teaching language learning or whatever they're learning. And then an exercise is a controlled and guided practice of a particular language aspect, such as reading comprehension. Students can do some exercise given by teacher to increase their skills for learning language. And then next slide. Teaching approach. As stated in Brown, there are 5 different types of approaches. First is classical approach. Ini disebut humanisme ya, di mana siswa perlu membaca buku klasik. Classical approach ya. The classical approach teaches student how to learn and how to think. And then the second is grammar translation approach. Siswa perlu belajar dengan menghemat waktu dan tenaga ya. In grammar translation classes, students learn grammatical rules and then apply those rules by translating sentences between the target language and the native language. And the third is direct approach. The direct method focuses on full immersion in the classroom environment where not one word of the student's native language is spoken. The focus is not on grammar, but instead on learning through listening and speaking. Siswa perlu belajar ya komunikasi sehingga mereka harus menggunakan hanya second language-nya itu di kelas. And then audiolingual approach. Siswa membutuhkan pengaudisian, operan dan modifikasi perilaku untuk belajar bahasa. This method is a method for foreign language teaching which emphasizes the teaching of listening and speaking before reading and writing. And then the last is communicative approach. Siswa harus mengekspresikan intensinya, yaitu mempelajari makna-makna yang penting bagi dirinya. When the learners are involved in a real communication, their natural strategies for language acquisition will be used, and this will allow them to learn to use the language in communicative approach. So approach, method, and technique are the 3 different terms which are often overlapped in language teaching. People often mention one of them, but they refer to another. Approach adalah tingkatan teori, sedangkan method adalah rencana pengajaran bahasa yang selaras dengan teori. Dan teknik itu adalah melaksanakan suatu metodenya. Dengan kata lain, susunan ketiganya adalah pendekatan aksiomatik, metode prosedural, dan teknik implementasional. Next slide. Richard and Roger suggest that a learning theory underlying an approach or method responds to 2 questions. The first, what are the psycholinguistic and cognitive processes involved in language learning? And the second is, what are the conditions that need to be met in order for this learning process to be activated? In general, an approach has the answer to these 2 questions. Tetapi metode tertentu mungkin hanya menekankan salah satu dari 2 dimensi ya, dari asumsi tentang pembelajaran bahasa dan bahasa yang lainnya. Suatu metode akan dikembangkan ya. There can be many methods within one approach. In language teaching, there are many methods. For example, our audiolingual method, the silent way, suggestopedia, communicative language learning, natural approach, total physical response, and communicative language teaching. Selain itu, teknik bersifat implementasional. Ya, artinya suatu teknik adalah sesuatu yang sebenarnya terjadi dalam pembelajaran bahasa di kelas. Semua aktivitas yang berlangsung di kelas bahasa adalah teknik. Teknik tidak eksklusif untuk metode tertentu. Ya, metode yang berbeda mungkin memiliki teknik yang serupa, meskipun harus memiliki teknik yang berbeda juga. I think it's enough for our group. Thank you. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.